I was born in Monterey, California, and I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, lived in about 80 acres.
Okay.
So for part of my childhood, and lived also in Athens, Georgia, and then back to California.
So you go from the West Coast to Washington, D.C. for a stint. You work on Capitol Hill. And then you wind up getting married and having a child.
Right.
Unfortunately, that marriage took a dark turn. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I met my ex-husband actually during the time I was living in Washington, D.C. when I was working for Joe Biden. The joy of that was my child and my daughter, and it's wonderful. But the heartbreak was that he was quite abusive and had a history, and we were put in a program that required me and my daughter to leave the area and have a sealed name change and live in a safe house.
Wow. The story itself is like, wow. And to see there's truth in it, like pure truth, is even more heartbreaking. You notice when she talks about this, the heartbreak, and then what they had to go through pretty much changed their identities to get away from this individual. She references emotion. Emotions are funny in the sense that when it comes to memory, even if it's a false memory, the strongest memories are always tied to emotion. So it could be a made-up memory or something you believe happened or real events. If it's connected to emotion, it's like written in stone in the brain.
Domestic violence situation.
It was. Law enforcement coordinated with women's shelters, and then also his parental rights were terminated. And so I raised my daughter by myself.
So you get a name change, you get a social security number change, you wind up moving to the Pacific Northwest, and then you decided to go to law school. How'd you pay for that?
I took out a lot of loans. I'm still in debt, very deeply in debt.
So you spent basically most of your career at that point helping domestic violence survivors, I'm told, worked for some animal rights organizations and the like.
Correct.
And is that what you were doing up until recently?
Correct. Off and on, yeah.
Okay. How old is your daughter now?
She's 25.
Okay. So let's go back to 1992. You get a job working for then Senator Joe Biden as what?
A staff assistant.
You're overseeing the interns.
Correct. So I was very excited to be on the Hill. I was very excited to work for Joe Biden. He's someone I looked up to.
So you're on Capitol Hill. You're how old at this point?
I'm 28, 29.
And you make some friends, including a woman who I'm just going to call Karen for the purposes of this interview, who's working in Ted Kennedy's office.
Correct.
Okay, and Karen becomes pretty relevant in a short amount of time. Then at some point in your 8-month stint working for Biden, you claim you were sexually harassed, and I'm making a distinction here between harassment and assault. We'll get to the alleged assault in a minute. You claim sexual harassment began. How so?
I would see him in hallways or whatever. He would always just greet me, put his hands on me, or put his hands on my shoulder and rub, my neck sometimes. It was just...
She's being open. Her body's singing, she's moving, she's talking with her body. She's not stiffening up. She's relaxed as one can be who is not used to being in front of the cameras. Because we do see the underlying stress there, but it's camera stress because we don't see it escalate on anything. It's just constant. And if you look at it like it was a RPM counter, it doesn't go up or down. It's just constant. You also see when she thinks about what happened, she does have visual memory. She goes to it. And then she goes to what would best be described as construction, not in the sense of I'm making it up, but it's the same memory hole your brain goes to if I asked you, what were you eating or drinking on Sunday morning 3 years ago? If you're a regular, predictable Joe, you can sit there and go, oh, it's Sunday. I know what I was doing because I do the same thing every Sunday, but you have no real memory on it. And for this kind of assault or harassment, it's hard to really pinpoint specific events that happen to sit there and go, oh, that's harassment. There's just a bunch of times that the mind, in its wonderful survivability, that it tries to avoid keeping those memories. It's like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. I was just uncomfortable this morning. I know it was this morning because it's like every time I'm around him. So that's what happened. And that's normal memory when it comes to abuse situations. You may have like one visual and the rest of it you're constructing because mentally your brain survives. And by surviving, it does not hold on to trauma. So you have to piece it together.
A bit odd. And I'd never had an employer do that.
Did you ever see him behave inappropriately with someone other than you?
Not really. He would sometimes put his hands on people that I thought it was just unusual, that he would just move people instead of saying, excuse me. I would see that once in a while. But he seemed to, at meetings, he would like put his hand, not necessarily look at me, but he would just put his hand on my shoulder, and then I would feel his finger underneath my hair, like on my neck. And
stroking your neck?
Yeah, just a little with his finger, and it just would make me freeze up because I'm a demonstrative person, but he was my boss and quite a bit older than me, and I just was surprised by that.
What did you take from that? Did you think he was after something?
At the time,
So you see her actually describing an event that has happened. And if you can get a survivor to describe an event that truly did happen, you should see a lot of good memory. You should see visual memory, emotional memory, all the tags hit for memory. You should also see the body mechanics work. So she's describing him putting his hand on her shoulder and then touching her neck. And you literally see her cringe up in the neck as if the memory was manifesting itself into reality. And he's stroking her neck right at that moment. She describes her response as she stands up real tall and tries to just stiffen up. Those are signs of a truth teller, especially when it comes to trauma. The body reacts outwardly. It retells the story as if it's reliving it at that moment. Not her mouth, but her body. Something that's been very lacking in a lot of supposed victims that we've been seeing.
Just was so kind of surprised by it. And then I walked in, I was called in actually, to the office by Marianne Baker, to her office, and there was a discussion going on about me.
Marianne Baker was Joe Biden's assistant for 30 years. She's in her 70s now, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But she was your boss.
Correct.
Okay, so she was the person that you reported to, and what happened? You walked into her office.
They were having a discussion about having me serve drinks at a fundraising event, and an aide was arguing that to me, saying that, I didn't have to do that. That wasn't my job, that because the senator had said he liked my legs and thought I was pretty, I didn't have to do this.
Who told you that?
It was a Senate aide.
That it heard Biden wanted you because he liked your legs.
Correct. And I was called into the office because they wanted to discuss it with me.
Okay.
And then I had one of my hallway meetings with Marianne Baker when she talked to me about it. And she just said, if you want to get along here, you need to keep your head down and do what you're told. If you want to keep, working here, basically. And she said, you need to button up your blouses, you need to have longer skirts, and you need to not look so sexy and noticeable. And you need to, change how you're dressing.
Were you wearing short skirts and low-cut blouses?
No, I was wearing what you would get at Express, like just normal, skirts. Back then in the 90s, we wore a lot of, pastel-y kind of things. I wore heels. I did dress.
So what do you think that was about?
I think looking back on it, it was almost like damage control. It's like they were coming out aggressively at me because of the drinks thing, I think, but I don't know.
Did you change the way that you dressed?
No, it's strange you asked that. No one's asked me that. But at the same time, I was talking to my mother, who is a very strong feminist and was always ahead of her time. And she explained to me that was probably retaliation for what I was not, serving the drinks.
And your mom says this is inappropriate. What was your mom's name?
Jeanette.
So Jeanette says, you got to do something about this. Did you?
No, I didn't. She said, you need to at least document it. And I said, Mom, this isn't the kind of place you do that. And I also talked to my friend, Karen. So
you told her what was happening in the office?
In real time, yes. We were discussing it.
After they had the discussion with you about your dress, do you feel there was any other retaliation?
It just became very icy. And my friend Karen noticed it when she would, if we would go to lunch or something, when she'd call for me, there was this iciness.
So there comes a day, at some point that spring of 1993.
Correct.
Where you say Senator Biden and you had an experience in a hallway in one of the Capitol buildings. Can you describe what happened that day?
Yes, We're
going to interject. Now, so far, if we'd have seen a deceptive moment, I'd have definitely pointed it out. But we haven't seen any. But she's actually discussing the icy moments, and this stemmed from drinks. Now, we really don't know the entire story as far as the itty-bitty details, because I'm not real clear if she actually agreed to it or not. But I would assume from just what we've gotten that this behavior has led to other incidences that have got them now on the defensive, that they know, this is the steps to this behavior that escalate to the assault. They've already started. We can see it coming. We can't get rid of her. We have no grounds to. So we're going to have these little conversations in the hallway. We're going to give her cold shoulder and it's not in the sense of I'm giving you cold shoulder to force you to quit. It's more like I'm giving you cold shoulder because I want you as far away from me as possible when we hit point Z, because everybody knows it's coming. We call those people enablers.
During that time where I was kind of frozen out, so I was kind of surprised. But Marianne came rushing in with this bag, like a duffel bag or gym bag, she called it, and said, hurry, the senator's already on his way. Just follow him and try to catch him before the Capitol and give him this. He wants his bag. I remember going down the Russell Building floors, and so I don't know if I was in the first floor or the basement, but there's corridors that lead to the Capitol and that kind of thing, and I was trying to catch up with him. And
this would have been on a weekday?
Yes. Okay. And I remember my heels, my legs hurting a little, and there was just from walking really fast. I remember things like that. And then I saw him at a distance. He was talking to someone, and they walked away the other direction. And then he greeted me. He remembered my name. And then I said, here you go, Senator. I handed him the bag. And it happened very quickly. I remember being pushed up against the wall and thinking the first thought I had.
So as she describes this, she takes in that breath, quiet. You see the body reacting as if it's happening in real time, not that it's a memory.
Where's the bag? Which is an absurd thought, but that's what I thought where's the bag? Yeah, because I was handing it to him. And he had his hands underneath my clothes, and it happened.
The eyes are going red. They're also closing. They want to get away. She's being much more wiggly because she's extremely uncomfortable with the stress, and that's what trauma looks like on people.
All at once. So he had one hand underneath my shirt, and the other hand, I had a skirt on, and he went down my skirt and then went up. And I remember I was up almost on my tippy toes. And when he went inside the skirt, he was talking to me at the same time, and he was leaning into me. And I pulled this way away from his head, I remember. And so he was kissing my neck area, and he whispered, "Did I want to go somewhere else?" in a low voice. He said some other things. I can't remember everything he said. But he said something vulgar. And
may I ask what?
He said, "I want to fuck you." And he said it low, and I was pushing away. And I remember my knee hurting because our knees, he had opened my legs with his knee, and our knees caps clashed. So I felt like this sharp pain. His fingers were inside of my private area, my vagina, and it wasn't, there was no small talk, there was no precept, it was just sudden, and it was happening like that. And he was saying those things to me, and I was pulling away. And then he pulled back immediately when he could see I wasn't complying. I was obviously just tensed up and frozen and not kissing him back and not going with him. And he pulled back and he looked at me and he said, "Come on, man, I heard you liked me." And when he said that, it was either I heard or I thought, but I remember hearing heard. When he said that, I immediately started thinking what I did, how I brought this on. Did I say something to somebody? Did I give an impression? She's
a very good witness. Her body just likes to sit there and talk. It relives the memories as she's going through this. What did I do? And you see the brain search and then the frown in the face as it's trying to still think, what did she do? And the body is in disagreement, and not in the sense where the mind and body disagree, but you can see that the mind and body, even though she's not verbalizing, disagrees that she did anything because it negatively shakes its head. What did I do? I didn't do this. It is so rare to see these people as they talk about their traumas. And we're so used to, as a society, to see fake victims, that this is a very, very good example of what a real one looks like, how their body reacts, the memories that they hold on to, the ones that even though they can't get rid of, are just stuck in their mind, and how they try to avoid it by closing their eyes. Like, if I close my eyes, I won't be able to see it. Unfortunately, it's burned into their mind.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers, where Mandy teaches more about her techniques of deception detection. There's also other content such as the Crime series and Interesting Mind series, available to both Gold and Silver subscribers.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.